Hello, good evening, everyone. I want to welcome you here to Prog Monster. My name is Murph. I am the host of this show, a show dedicated to progressive rock and other forms of rock music. So it's time for Monday night's look back at a classic rock album, which we will be doing tonight. It's a show in which I take an album that's greater than 15 years old, that's at least a two, a one, or a masterpiece in my collection. This current album that we're going to do tonight is currently on my playlist, and it is Marillion's Fugazi, their second studio album. So I'll give you the vitals on this album. Just going to move up the notes here so I can actually see them when I need them. So this was released March the 12th, 1984. Um, Recorded at the Maze Studio in Oxfordshire, Mason Roog in London, the Sarmet, the Sarm East in London, as well as the Bell Pie in London as well. Sorry, I got a pop up here where it came from, but we'll move it out of the way there. So, it's about 45 minutes, 46 minutes long. It's on the EMI label. Sorry. Nick Tauber being the producer of the album. So the members of Marillion for this particular album, so this is their second studio album, everybody's pretty much the same as it was on their first studio album, except for the drummers changed. So we've got Fish on vocals, Steve Rothery on guitars, Mark Kelly on keyboards, Pete Traveris on bass, Ian Mosley on drums, and then Jonathan Mover, who also plays drums on Punch and Judy. And there's a couple of additional musicians on the album. Um, Linda Pike doing backing vocals on the Incubus, and Chris Karen doing percussion. Doesn't actually say where he's doing percussion, but I'm assuming he's adding bits and pieces here and there. So a little bit about the album in general. So when I first put this album in the playlist, I really wasn't expecting too much from it because um, of the four original Marillion albums, the ones with Fish on vocals, Um, every one of them gets talked about except for this one. This one doesn't get talked about. So the first one, of course, was considered among the very first of that neo-prog albums to come out in the early 80s. It's also one of my favorite albums of the neo-prog era. And then you've got Childhood's End, which is many considered to be their best album. It has the hit single Kaylee on it. And then you have geez, I can't Clutches at Straws, which is kind of the one that a lot of people often cite as the hidden gem, the dark horse. It's a dark album too. The album that many might say is their best. This one doesn't get talked about at all, really. I'm not really sure why. It's quite a good album. It starts out really good and it kind of tails off. The last back half of the album isn't nearly as good as the front half, but still really good. So there are 7 tracks on the album. I find this to be your typical Marillion sounding, at least the original 4 album sounding album. It's got its bitey parts, it's got its very forward drums, its very forward bass parts at times, some guitar solos throughout, lots of keyboards and synthesizers, and sounds very much like it could be just a tail connection to um, the script for Jester's Tear. So it starts out with the song Assassin, Assassinating, I guess is the word that you want to use it. So this has an almost Indian kind of opening sound feeling to it, like a Eastern Indian kind of sound to it. Although they use the keyboards here, so it doesn't have any of the sitar or anything like that on it, but just has an Indian kind of vibe to it. It is followed by this kind of heavy drum beat and a kind of catchy, heavy rhythm section as well. Um, for a Marillion song, this song's quite heavy. It's one of their heavier songs, I think. Could have fit in nicely on Clutches with Straws, I think. Um, some catchy guitar parts throughout the song. The vocals are a bit bitey and very heavy, very forward. So when I say bitey, is his voice gets a little bit raspy at times while he's trying to belt it out. He tends to try to sing in that falsetto, which I don't think is normal for him. So he'll often, as he gets more aggressive with his vocals, he often gets a little bit more raspy than he would if he's just singing it quietly. I'm gonna put this down for a minute. Next song out is Punchin' Judy, probably my favorite track on the album. The first two tracks are probably my two favorites on the album. Punchin' Judy, very catchy keyboard opening. This has a catchy rhythm beat throughout the song. Bass drums forward in the mix, very good. Vocals bitey and strong and catchy, and another heavy track. So I've always wondered throughout my prog, as I developed my interest in prog, why people always say that Marillion isn't a prog band. I've always thought of them as a prog band. I don't know why people wouldn't, but there is a couple of things that they do that a lot of prog bands don't do. They like to produce, they like to kind of um, have a chorus where they reproduce some aspect of the song over and over. They also have more of a catchy rhythm section than a lot of prog bands do. So I get why people think that they lack that prog, that they're a little bit more maybe mainstream. I don't think of them that way, but I see where people come from. So this was probably my favorite track on the album, Punchin' Judy. Next track out, I like this a lot, Jigsaw. It's got a more of a melodic, heavy sound to it, not as fast paced as the first two couple of tracks. The vocals again falsetto, but with again another bitey part as he tries to squeeze his emotions out. Yeah, it's got a really an emotional feel to this track overall. A nice, slow, emotional, charged solo, guitar solo. Sorry, my neighbor's moving stuff around upstairs, so I can't do much about that. Next up, we have Emerald Lies. So the album from that point on, from the first three tracks on, really, really good tracks, solid album at that point. Gets a little bit, starts to go down a little bit. It never goes to the bottom, but it kind of waves off a bit on the back four songs. Emerald Lies is the next track. Has a kind of a heavy drum keyboard part at the beginning that opens, and you get this kind of haunting high falsetto vocal opening kind of going along with these two this part. It's got a heavy bass that's just kind of forward in the mix a bit, not dominating, but easily recognizable as the bass guitar here. It's got a bit of a slow end sound as it goes down. Um, it does have a jump up heavy part and the voice interlude through at towards the middle of the song, but definitely I would call this it's not a fast paced heavy song for sure. Next up is she's Chameleon. Starts out with this kind of church organ, which goes on fairly lengthy part of the song. The vocals are more, um, uh, I guess you might call them stoic, a little bit more stoic. It builds with a melodic, heavy drum part. The keyboard solo is very intricate, tying back to the song to front. So it goes from this one sound, and then it's tied together by the keyboard into the back sound, and then it's you got a little bit of a slower guitar, and then a little bit more dominated melodic keyboard part. Pretty keyboard dominated song, I think, and the longer. So that seems to be the case here. You've got the first three songs really good, and then as they get closer to the back, they seem to not be as good, and they're a little bit longer too. The back two songs are two longest on the album, probably my least two favorite. So Incubus is the next song out. It's the longest track on the album, over 8 minutes, 8.5 minutes in length. It's got a heavy part, strong forward vocals, driving melodic track. I think it moves along, but it's melodically moving along, and then has a kind of a slow melodic part to it as well. Um, I think this track has most of the emotions, like more emotions than most of the tracks on the album. And again, the vocals, again a little bit bitey, and a nice guitar solo, lengthy guitar solo at that. The final track is Fugazi, title track. to the album. Nice piano opening, very subdued opening. Again, the vocals are falsetto, somewhat um, obscure, not easy to differentiate what he's saying, is what I'm trying to say. The song builds with some keys and synthesizer and a symphonic sound. The soloing is good on the song, but more of a poppy range type sound to it. Kind of slows down again towards the halfway point. Got a little bit of that spacey noises going on at times too. It's almost like a space rock sound to it. The guitar solo is kind of whiny, slow, melodic, and the keyboard background to kind of act as kind of filler to it. So overall, the back four songs are decent. They're good. They're more melodic sounding, not as heavy as the front track. I kind of wish they did more of the first three tracks, something more along that line than on the back half. But still, this is a strong album. I like it a lot. I'm not sure I like it as much as the other three Fish um, vocaled Marillion albums, but I still like it quite a bit. So, anyways, I hope you've enjoyed this episode of Look Back at a Classic Rock Album. If you want, you can hit the like and subscribe. And if you want, you can also leave your opinions about the album, about the group, about Fish, about any of that stuff I've talked about in the opinion or the comment section below. And we will see you next Monday night on another Look Back at a Classic Rock Album. So have yourself a good night, a good evening, a good night, goodbye from Prog Monster.